Hey, what's up guys, it's Mike, and let's do a quick video on your personal level of protection when you're out there. One of the common questions I always tend to get, sometimes in the forums and via email, is, I want to, do I really need to buy cleats, and are elbow pads and knee pads really necessary, and what about paintball pants, and when should I replace my lens, and stuff like that. Here's what you got to understand about paintball, okay? And this is where, we take you out of the current realm of paintball where we treat you all like little babies and into the Tech PB realm where I treat you all like adults, okay? You have to make your own personal decisions based on your safety level or your personal level of safety, okay? If you don't really care about your personal safety, no, you don't have to wear cleats, and no, you don't have to worry about elbow pads and all that other stuff. It's just like anything else in life, okay? You have to decide your own personal level of safety and what you want to invest in. Some people, they replace the tires on their car when it gets down to the point the wear indicators end up being flush with the tread. They go and replace their tires. Some people will drive their tires to the point where they're so bald that you start seeing the liners on the inside of the tires start to come out. Some people will actually drive their tires until they just completely shred apart on the highway, and then they'll drive it on the rim for another 100 miles, okay? So you have to decide your personal level of protection or safety in regards to paintball. There are no rules that are out there, okay? So, do you have to buy cleats? No, you don't have to buy cleats. Do you have to buy elbow pads? No, you don't have to buy elbow pads. Do you have to buy paintball pants or wear knee pads? No, you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to do any of that stuff. But if you plan on playing paintball for a really long time and you value your knees and you value not slipping and falling when you're out there on the paintball field, and you don't want to knee down on a tree root and have to limp for 2 weeks, and you don't want to wear a cast for 2 months because you were running across a slippery paintball field and slipped and fell on your ass, but you put your feet or your hands down to brace the fall and you end up breaking your elbow, so now you've got to wear a cast for 2 months. If that kind of stuff doesn't bother you, no, you don't have to wear any of that. That kind of stuff bothers me, okay? I don't want to slip and fall when I'm out there on the field. I don't want to knee down on a tree root, or knee down on a screwdriver, or knee down on maybe a hammer that was left out there on accident, or knee down on a stake, or knee down on I'm trying to think some of the other things I've kneed down on or found in my thing, a sprinkler head or something like that. Okay, this stuff, there's stuff that are that's out there on paintball fields, or rocks or stuff like that. There's stuff that's out there on the paintball field that can really ruin your day. Okay, probably one of the worst injuries I ever had was I was at a field that used to be down in Miami called Spray Paint, and I left my elbow pads at home, and I didn't really walk the field, and I didn't quite know what was out there, and I went and did a dive into the snake, but I didn't realize that the field was on limestone. And so I'm basically at a full sprint. I went and did a Superman dive into the snake area, and there were huge limestone rocks, and there was basically what looked like grass, but it was basically just grass flakes on top of limestone, and I absolutely shredded myself apart. From my chest to my knees and everything, or my elbows and everything. Luckily I had knee pads on, but when I hit the ground, a rock went down and gouged my chest. I ended up just completely pretty much skinning both of my elbows down to the bone, and I didn't quite realize what happened until one of the refs came over and pulled me out because I was bleeding so bad. That was a bad day. I didn't play paintball for about 2 months after that because I had real severe injuries, and I had a really nice gash and deep bruising down my chest. But this goes to the same thing also with lenses. Like, when should you replace your lens? Probably before you even have to ask that question. I personally replace my lenses probably about every 3 months. I don't think I've ever used a lens that was more than a year old. It's just not worth it to me, okay? My eyeballs, these two little things that I'm looking at you with right now, are not worth, a $20 lens is not worth me losing either one of these, okay? If I had to wear an eye patch for the rest of my life because I was using a 5-year-old lens and someone happened to shoot it and it broke, if someone said, hey, you know what, you can reverse this whole thing and we'll go back in time, all you have to do is give me $20 for a new lens, and I'll give you back your eyeball and we'll go back in time and change it. So it's almost the same thing. It's worth $20 out of my own pocket to go buy a new lens, put it in there and not have to worry about wearing an eye patch for the rest of my life. So if it's worth, if your eyes are worth more than $20, replace your fucking lens and quit sending me questions. When should I replace my lens? Now. That's when you gotta do it. That's a universal answer. Someone asks anything in paintball from now on, when should I replace my lens? You just ask them, tell them replace it now. Because obviously he's asking you, his lens is probably scratched up, it's probably beat up, it's probably from a mess that's 2 or 3 years old, it's faded, it's worn, it's been, sun damaged, it's already been shot probably 20 or 30 times. Who knows? Now's the time to replace your lens, okay? It's a $20 piece of equipment. Who gives a shit? We're talking about your eyes. Okay, once you lose one of your eyes, you lose your depth perception. I mean, who cares? Now luckily most of the lenses that are made now are made really, really well. When I first started playing paintball, this was back before they had really, really good standards. They had things like the Vince Predator and stuff like that. Those lenses didn't last very long. There was a lot of lenses made back in the late 80s and early 90s that didn't quite last very long, and after, a couple of years, they'd shatter when they'd hit, So there's a lot of things in paintball that you have to take into consideration when you decide your own personal level of safety, okay? If you want to go out there and play on a field that's, slick like glass, hard as concrete, and you want to go out there in bowling shoes and shorts, that's your decision, okay? If you slip and fall and break something, or a knee down on something that causes a knee injury, you got to live with that, not me. So what's my personal level of safety? My personal level of safety is very, very high. I always have a very, a clean, fresh lens that's probably less than a couple months old. I'm always wearing some sort of head protection so when I get hit in the head it doesn't hurt that bad. I'm always wearing elbow pads. I'm always wearing gloves. I'm always wearing slider shorts with groin protection. I'm always wearing cleats. I'm always wearing elbow pads. I'm always wearing good quality paintball pants, and I'm always wearing a good jersey to hold all that in. Sometimes I wear a bounce vest. Sometimes I don't. When I go out there and play X-ball, I get bunkered a lot. I get shot a lot. I don't need to see, people don't care if I've got paintball welts all over me. It doesn't make me look like a badass, doesn't make me look cool. I just don't quite care, I know what it's like to get shot point blank. A bounce vest for me, or a bounce shirt for me, just lessens the sting. Now, if some people, that's only a pussy does that. Only a chicken shit coward will wear a bounce vest. Okay, well, there's people out there that will ride a motorcycle with no shirt, no goggles, no head protection, this, that, and the other, and they'll call everyone else pussies for not doing that. But then the first time they wreck their motorcycle and they're in the, in the ER with street peats all over them, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I ruined my life. Oh, I got to get skin grafts now. Okay, it's, so you decide your own personal level of safety when you're out there and your own personal level of protection. You do what you do right and fuck what anyone else thinks, okay? Straight up. That's basically what it is. You have to live with your body. This is the only one God gave you. So why do you care what some 17-year-old douchebag or whatever, oh, you're wearing a bounce vest? Yeah, well, guess what? Well, guess who's wearing a shirt at a beach because they look like they have fucking leprosy, and look who doesn't, So, no, there's nothing wrong with wearing bounce vests. I wear one. The one I wear is from A&S Gear. It's a Warrior Sports Gear. It's just light enough for me to play out there on the X-ball field, and it doesn't get too weighted down. And it's also, just thick enough to just lessen the sting just enough that, it makes me feel invincible when I'm out there when I'm playing it. Also, when I dive into bunkers and stuff like that, it helps, keep some of the wind in my chest on the bad dives and stuff like that. Elbow pads and knee pads, not only do they help take the sting out of getting shot in the elbow, but also when I dive and stuff like that. You guys see I play every single weekend, okay? There's no scabs on my elbows right now. That's a good thing, okay? So, you don't play paintball. No one gives a shit if you play paintball, okay? Just because you play paintball, you're not a badass. Even if you go out there and you play with no pads on, you're not a badass, okay? This sport is just as makes you just as much as a badass as RC car racing or mountain biking or any of this other stuff. It's just shit that you do that's fun. You don't have to prove anything when you're out there. No one fucking cares that you play paintball. So decide your own level of protection when you're out there on the field, and fuck what anyone else thinks. If you want to wear a bounce vest, wear a bounce vest. Who gives a shit what anybody at the field says? Okay, fuck them. They don't. They're not you. They're not your body. Nor do they decide. Nor should they be deciding what you want to wear. If you feel that having a bounce vest makes you feel more invincible and takes the sting out, you're gonna play better. Okay. Elbow pads, if you think that, having elbow pads is going to prevent you from getting all scarred up and stuff like that, and you're diving into the snake like a badass or diving into bunkers like a badass, that's good, but personally, I think if you're on a budget, the first thing I would say, buy cleats. Absolute rule number one thing, buy cleats. From there, buy elbow pads. I'd much rather you wear cleats and knee pads. I'd much rather you wear cleats and knee pads and play with jeans and a t-shirt than anything else. Most of the paintball pants that are on the market today, even the most expensive ones, do not provide adequate knee protection. They provide a little bit of padding, but not much. So knee pads definitely are a must-have. I would say use cheap pants, but good knee pads. Some of my personal favorite ones, the Dicor knee pads, are probably my favorite. I really, really like them. I know they're coming out with some new things right now for 2011 and stuff like that, but definitely start from the bottom, okay? Your feet, most important thing, buy cleats. Then from there, go to knee pads, and then from there, you can basically mix and match whatever you want. If you're diving a lot, I'd say go with elbow pads. Probably next thing up I would say is wear groin protection. A lot of players, when they play, are afraid of getting shot in the nuts. I've been shot in the nuts many times, and it fucking hurts. So, one thing I learned is that if I'm not wearing good groin protection, I tend to not bunker people as much. So I put on a good pair of slider shorts. Right now I'm wearing the Empire slider shorts. It's got good groin protection. The pants I'm wearing have good groin protection. And I don't even think twice when I go up there to bunker with somebody. So, same thing with my gloves. A lot of times when I go to trade out with somebody, when I'm bunkering somebody, a lot of times I get shot in the hands. I notice if I'm not wearing gloves, I may be afraid to snap shoot with somebody who's 5 feet away from me, or I might be afraid to trade with somebody who's 2 feet away from me and stuff like that. But if I have hand protection, then I don't have to worry about that. Same thing with, head protection. If I'm more likely to dive into the snake when I've got good head protection than if I'm just, don't have anything on my head and I'm afraid of getting domed and, end up, seeing stars for a few minutes. So, decide your own personal level of protection. Paintball is not supposed to be cheap. Absolutely not supposed to be cheap. It's supposed to be expensive. That's what makes it fun, okay? It's not supposed to be a budget game like basketball or soccer where all you need is a ball and a court and you can go and play, okay? You're supposed to spend a shitload of money when you play paintball. Sorry if nobody ever told anybody else this. Sorry if technically is the first place you've ever heard this. You're supposed to spend a lot of money when you play paintball. It was the case when I started playing in the 80s, and it's the case now. Now, a lot of people may try to sell this as some inner city budget cheap game that anybody can get into, but the reality is just not that. You have to spend a lot of money when you play paintball. So, you need to be looking at spending, $50+ on a mask, probably $50+ on cleats, $50+ on pants, $50+ on knee pads. Elbow pads are expensive. Bounce vests are expensive. New lenses are expensive. So all this stuff is really, really expensive. Paintball is not supposed to be a cheap sport whatsoever, okay? It's not supposed to be a budget sport. You're not supposed to be rolling quarters to go out there and buy a new set of cleats. So hopefully this answers some of these questions that I get about when should I replace my lens, when should, are cleats really necessary, are pads really necessary, are elbow pads really necessary. Well, you guys see me out there playing every single weekend, and every single weekend I play, I'm always wearing this stuff. So, is it necessary? No, it's not necessary. But then again, you don't have to wear a helmet when you ride a motorcycle. That's not necessary. But guess what? When you wreck, you're going to really wish you had one. It's the same thing. If you slip, if you're going out and playing on a slick field, you have cleats on, you go home, no big deal. You don't have cleats on, you slip and fall, well, you might be wearing a cast for 2 months. So that's your decision. Well, me, I don't like to slip and fall. I don't like kneeing down on roots and sprinkler heads and leftover steaks and stuff like that. I don't like getting shot in the nuts. I don't like getting my elbows skinned. And I don't like getting shot in my head, really, from up close and having to feel that sting as well. So I wear all of that stuff. Does it make me a pussy? Who gives a shit? But you know what? I've been playing for 23 years and I have hardly any injuries. So you decide your own level of protection and go from there. Hope this helps.